Well, good afternoon to everybody in Poland. First and foremost, I want to thank Thomas for the invite, Michael as well for moderating the session and being part of the organizing team and the whole team, essentially from Poland. It would be my heart's desire to be there with you. This year's being challenging. I really like to do events in person, but we take whatever is possible, right? So before we start, I want to make sure that there is people really on the other side of the line. So if you can just say hello or good afternoon, good morning. It's morning for me here in Canada. Just to get a feel for that there is really real people on the other side of the line. So it's really nice to connect with everyone. Um, Thanks, Bonner, for sponsoring this event. I believe there'll be prizes at the end of the event, so you don't want to disconnect. Stay connected throughout the day. The sessions will be really, really good. So don't disconnect. Well, my name is Victor Dantas. I am a Microsoft MVP in Business Apps. I'm also a 365 Saturday ambassador. We try to run these events around the globe pretty much every weekend of the year. Right now, we're doing more online events, but our strength is really in the in-person community events. So hopefully, the COVID thing's gonna go away soon, so we can meet again. I'm a Power Platform consultant. I've been doing Dynamics development since version 4, and before that, I was a software developer, mostly in the .NET stack, so ASP.NET, C Sharp, SQL Server programming, so on and so forth. So I've been in the industry for close to be 24 years. Yes, 24 years already by the end of this year. Really grateful to have walk alongside some stellar people and to be part of this community. You can find me on dantas.ca. This is my email address, victor at powercommunity.com, if you wanted to connect. I hope I can help in some way, shape, or form. The QR code works as well. Today we're gonna do something fun. Somebody started doing this Super Victor logo thing. It was supposed to be a joke and it has taken on. So what we're gonna do today is I wanted to ensure that you're paying attention to the presentation. So if you want to take part of this contest and if you tell me the right number of appearances of this little logo guy, I'm gonna step back one time. So that's him and that's him again, and he will show up throughout the presentation. Um, so if you want to take part of this context, what you need to do is at the end of the presentation, if you can send me an email or if you connect on LinkedIn and find me, tell me how many times this little superhero guy has appeared, and whomever gets the right answer first, we'll get a T-shirt. I'll send it over to you, and we'll get this book written by Dave Diak and Juliak. So again, if you count and if you tell me the right number, you get a T-shirt. I'll send it over to you wherever you are in the globe, and I'll send a book as well. So the object of the session for today is we're going to learn how to provision a portal. We're going to understand the technology, get familiar with the available editors, the ways that are available for us to customize the portal. We are going to do a quick demo on applying branding on the portal, make it look nicer. Michael pointed out that it does look old school, and I agree with you. So we're gonna learn how to kind of change that the look and feel of the site. We are going to explore portal and CDS components, and I think that's really the strength of portals, being able to expose components that you have built in your CDS model, and the CDS service for that matter. And then we're gonna really high level look at ProDev aspects of portals. So let's get going to ensure that we have time to talk about all the items and also have time to take questions. All right, the agenda. First and foremost, we're gonna look at provisioning a portal, how to do that using the make.powerapps.com website. Then we're gonna look at portals under the hood, what makes the portal technology, what's there behind the scenes. Then the editors we're gonna look at is the Portal Studio, the legacy front face editor, as well as the model driven app. So all three. We're gonna go through an example of branding using CSS and Bootstrap. Then we're gonna look at three, at least for me, it would be the citizen developer core components for portals: entity lists, entity forms, and entity permissions. And then finally, when we look at ProDev aspects, we're gonna look at liquid development, DevOps, Web API, and other topics. Now, the last topic, again, I'll re-emphasize that depending on the velocity of how we go here, we're gonna be able to look at some of these ProDev components more in depth. But if we don't have time, I'll point out to some resources and then some upcoming events that myself and other folks will be involved that will help you in that scenario as well. All right, how to provision a portal. The prerequisites to using a portal or create a portal is first, you must have a CDS environment. And in that CDS environment, you do need to have a database, a CDS database created for portal. No longer require a license of any of the Dynamics 365 apps, but you do need a CDS database, the core CDS database. All right. Then we're gonna hop to the PowerApps Portals make website, and then the last link here is if you don't have an environment that you can work with, if you don't have a place where you can try and test things, you can access this link, create a community account, community plan account, and then you'll be able to play with some of the Power Apps applications, be it Canvas app, model driven app, or even portals. Now, there is a limitation to the community plan, and what it is you cannot have multiple users in the same community plan. It's a one user only. And there are some other legal limitations. You cannot run your own apps on it, and for production purpose or commercial purposes. So, but you can get a lot done using the community portal. All right. So let's go to the admin area, and then we'll get going. So in order for you to create an environment, you go to admin.powerapps.platform.microsoft.com. Sorry, admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com. And then in here, you can click new to create an environment. When you do select the type of environment, you have all these types. If you're using your company environment, be careful with the production selection, okay? And then you can select the region that you want to use. In my case, my default one is Canada. On yours, it'll be something that's closer to where you live, depending on how your tenant's set up. Then it's important for you to flag this option to create a database for the environment. So I'm gonna show you how it looks like for the next steps. Very similar to what you used to do with the Dynamics environment. You can select a currency, and then you can deploy sample apps and data. Now, if your tenant is set up for sample apps and data and even Dynamics 365 apps, I'd say flag them, because in terms of portals, there are 4 portal templates, and some of the templates give you quite a bit of functionality right from the get-go. For example, the customer service template gives you quite a bit of potential there. So it's nice to get started with more functionality rather than having you create the features on your own. So that's the way to create. Once the environment's ready, then you have a list here of environments. You can manage backups on the admin areas, but really you're going to spend a lot of time in the make.powerapps.com. Right in here though, when you click create, then you're going to have the option to create your apps. There are three major blocks up top that you can choose from. You're going to choose the portal. And again, if you have the Dynamics 365 licenses associated with your portal, then if you were to type portals in this box, you would get all of the templates that I was referring to. Okay, so that's how you create. When you click to select the type of app that you want to create, you'll be posed with this particular pop-up. And in here, you can give a name to your portal. My first portal. You can decide what the URL will look like. Could be the name of your company or demo, whatever you decide to. You can select the language. So somebody's already using this one. Okay. Now this language is driven by the language pack that you have installed in your tenant. So there are multiple languages available for portals. In my scenario here, only have English, but you can pick and choose the language that you desire. It's a really great feature to be able to use that. And some of the components that we're gonna see at the end of the demo around CDS, like the labels in the fields and so on and so forth, they will take on from whatever language you have established in this setup. So that's really cool. So when you're done placing the information, you can click create, and then the portal application will be listed here. Note that when you install portals, you're going to get two applications listed. One with the portal, PowerApps Portals itself, and another one is a model-driven app called Portal Management. We're going to have a look at both as we progress here in the application, or in the training. All right. Any questions so far? If not, I'll move on. All right. Moving on. So when you provision portal, this is the first impression or the first look of portals. If you are using the one of the templates I mentioned, customer service, partner management portals, then the look and feel is a little different, and it's a bit older school. Sorry, older school, but this is pretty standard Bootstrap um, Power Apps. Now, when we talk about portals, essentially we are looking at an ASP.NET website here that I know I can't really tell for certain what version of ASP.NET it's using today. I can tell that not a whole lot has changed from the days of ADX Studio, which was the portal, the initial portals product. There is still ASP.NET Forms in the backend. There is still ASP.NET MVC, but I don't know which versions are there in the backend. But it's the technology is built on ASP.NET Forms and ASP.NET MVC. In terms of what we can do with portals, the technology that's available for us for customization is, of course, native JavaScript. Portals using Bootstrap 3.x. I think a few weeks ago was still 3.7. I don't know what it is today, but it does use Bootstrap for responsive design. So if your company has a template already that's Bootstrap based, you can use it very easily here, and I'll show you how. But in terms of the backend, that's what makes Portal. The binaries for Bootstrap, as well as the ASP.NET technology in the backend. And on top of that, portals use a lot of CDS data. When you install portals, it installs a bunch of CDS solution files as well as data. So it is data driven, and the data is stored in CDS. So I put up this slide together. It's one of the slides that I pretty much present on all of my presentations. And this was just to explain the data structure for portals. So portal has a bunch of entities, and all of those off of those entities, the ones I'm presenting are to me the most important. So for each portal that you use in your tenant, and you can have as many portals as you desire, but for the ones that you have, you're gonna have a website record in CDS. And then all of the other entities that I list here, or data types that I list here, are associated with portals. You have web pages, um, you have site settings. Site settings will control the configuration of your website. If you are going Azure AD as identity provider, or if you want to use B2C, or if you want to enable Facebook for your site, if you want to use LinkedIn authentication, so on and so forth. This is all driven by site settings. You have content snippets, and this is blobs of data or labels that you want to lay on your website, and you don't want to go to the back end to change it. You want to maybe make it available for your users to change in the front end. Portals have web files. These files by default are stored in the notes records in CDS. You can configure this particular web files to be stored in Azure using the blob storage in Azure as a blob storage service, but by default, it does use notes record. Now, in terms of licensing, this used to be a huge concern. I don't want to store big files. I don't want to store videos in my CDS. I want to store it elsewhere. Microsoft has made changes around the way that they charge for costs in portals, and they have made sure that web files and the annotation, the notes records that has file attachments are charged differently from your data set in CDS. Now, if you still prefer to use Azure Blob, then you can configure that as well. Now, when you look at the web pages data type or the entity, you see that each page has a associated web page localized content, and that's to facilitate language support. So if your port is to be delivered in multiple languages, then you're gonna have as many web page localized content for one single page. So if it's running, like here in Canada, if it's running in English and French, then you're gonna have a web page localized content for English, another one for French, so on and so forth. Associated with web pages, you have an entity called page template, sorry. And those page template used to allow us to add additional ASP.NET pages to our portals. So you would create an ASP.X page, and in there you would then upload in the page templates, you would upload your ASPX files. It's no longer the case. We can no longer upload those files, but type of of page template called web template that we can then customize. It's customized right from the platform itself. It's data-based, if you will. It's a record in Dynamics, and then these templates are based on a language called Liquid. The Liquid language was created by a company called Shopify. So it is open source language. It was originally created by Shopify, and we do use a subset of Liquid called liquid.net to be able to customize portals, and we'll see that later on in our presentation. Now, for web template customization, you can bake in HTML customization, you can add JavaScript, and that can be native, it can be jQuery, and it can be a JavaScript framework if you upload that framework as a file, or if you reference that using CDN. And then, of course, Liquid, as I mentioned. All right. All right, so we are going to have a look at how we can customize the look and feel of portals. And the first tool that we're going to look at is called Portal Studio. This is Microsoft's take to make portals customization, at least the look and feel of the app, more close to what Canvas apps developers already do. So when you look at the Portal Studio, there are some areas that I'll quickly touch on just to ensure that we have understanding of what can be done and how to get things done. So the first thing is the comment bar. It is in the comment bar that you will create a new page, remove a component. You can actually click to browse your site to see how it looks to the public. The second one is the tool belt. Um, the icons don't give you too much. Oops, don't give too much information there, but you get used to it as you use the application. So in the tool belt, you can manage pages that you previously have created. You can add components to the current page that you have in the Canvas area, and you can edit templates. Number 3 is the Canvas area. It's the biggest area of this studio. It is in here that you can kind of drag and drop your components. If you have a label there, you can rename the label, so on and so forth. The fourth item here in the studio is the footer. The footer will display to you whether or not this page is saved, and allows you to see the source code of a page or an area. Now, let me give you a warning. The studio uses autosave. And usually the way that autosave works is as you complete an action, it will trigger the autosave capability. If you are changing properties of a component on block 5, the properties pane, it will try to autosave as you leave each text box. So if you relabel something or if you rename something, as you step out of that control, the on blur event, it will go ahead and remove, it will go ahead and trigger an autosave. The autosave feature, I think for me personally, is the worst of this experience. I really like Portal Studio. You can get a lot done a lot faster than what you would do with the other experience, the legacy experience. But the autosave has caused me trouble in the past. So as you work through your customization, your activities, give it some time for for Portal Studio to autosave. Okay, you don't want to go through an experience where you change things quickly and autosave doesn't kick in the order that you expect, and that could mess up your work. I want to make you aware that Microsoft is already working on making the autosave experience better. So this is not a thing that's unknown to them, and hopefully they'll get it fixed soon. All right. So let's pause a little bit and let's go to the studio and kind of have a feel for it. I have left it open, but essentially how you get your studio is you go to your Portal app, you click on Edit, and that's how you navigate to this particular page here. So that's the view. Again, the menu bar up top, toolbox here, the tool belt. Then the canvas area is the big area. And finally, you have the properties pane and the footer, excuse me, shows me that my items are saved. So if I want to make a quick change in my portals, I can say hello Olin, and when I click out, it will go ahead and autosave. Maybe it already did because it was a small change. So that is done there. I can make changes to another area of my portal. Testing Portal Studio. Okay, click out, and then that's gonna save it. So on and so forth. So you get the idea of how Studio works. So if I want to see the HTML on my portal, I can click here on the source code editor, and that shows me the HTML for this portal. Now note that for the source code, I'm allowed to click save, which is great. So, and then I'll see whether it's saved or not. All right, so on the menu bar, I can say, go ahead and give me a page. I'm going to create a blank page. Give it a name. Simple content. Oops, that's the name of the page. I can change the URL that I would like that page to be presented. Simple content. Oops. Click outside and it auto saved. I can click on the page again. In components, I can add a text block. That's my text here. All right. I can go back to components and add an image. It's my image. I'm going to upload it. And again, by doing this, it will put it on, place it on notes record. So my page is saved. Doesn't quite like it, but let's have a look. So I'm gonna browse the site, and then I can see my page. All right, so that's the content of my page. Now I'm not satisfied with the way it looks, but I don't want to do much here on the editor. I want to go to the source code and make my changes. So because I know a little bit of Bootstrap, I'm going to drag my components, or the ones I created, into a container area, just so that this looks a bit better. Okay, I'm going to add a row div. Oops, I left one extra. Then there, I'm going to copy this guy here as well. Save. Now it's somewhat presentable. I can play with the components. I can add another class here. I'll call it image responsive, which is a native class for Bootstrap. I can again make this a div, do a jumbotron off of this div, save. Now it's saved, and I can go refresh my page and see how it looks. So somewhat presentable. Now, one thing that I do when I'm preparing quotes for my customers is I usually do something visual to ensure that I understand the requirements. So I usually go to sites like this one, bootswatch.com. I go to the version 3, they have a version 4 site. Then in here, I can look at examples in Bootstrap. So maybe for my customer, they wanted me to present a form that has fields such as this. So I can take the HTML from this site from this example, copy that, then go to my source code. I'm going to do another row here, make sure that things are kept in order. Save that. And now I have a form, right? So I try to use as much as built-in Bootstrap components as I can, so that I don't have to do a whole lot of the look and feel. And a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, you can take it, even templates that has more sophisticated look and feel and reuse in your example. I'll show you one other example. Let's look for a bootstrap image carousel. Let's see if I can find the native one. This might be version 4. I'm gonna switch it to version 3. Let's go back. V3. So let's see if we can find an example of this. So this may work for us. Let's see. So we got the HTML. Go back here to the source code. I'm gonna delete the form. It served its purpose. It's gone. I'm gonna throw this carousel right in here, and I'm just gonna flip using my own images. Otherwise, we'll have trouble here because I don't have a reference to all these other images that they have. Save. And go back to the page. Now I have a carousel. See, very little effort, but it's still, carousel is there, and we can do stuff. So next what I've got here on the presentation is what's known as the front-facing editor, the legacy editor. I call it legacy because I believe this will eventually go away. It's still in use, and it comes from the ADX Studio version, and it's still available for you to play with. So the way we get in is we have to sign in to get the front face editor. And I'm going to use my Azure AD account to get here. And you see that when I do it, I get this little box on the side. So with the little box, I can either click edit from here, and this option would actually allow me to edit the contents of the page in whatever language may be available. If I had it on English and French, I would be able to select which language I was editing the content. I can also go straight to the copy field of this page, hit edit, and then get the editor from here. Again, this way, using the copy field, you get straight to the content. If you click edit at the page level, you get to select which language you are editing it to. All right, so from here, I can do similar things. I can, if I don't like this Jumbotron, I can delete it. So delete the Jumbotron. It's now gone. I still have my image here. I'm gonna delete this image. Now, if I want to do it HTML editing, I can do it similar fashion as what we saw in Studio and still be able to save it. Hit OK. Before I save and go away from here, I want to show you the experience for file upload is a little different in this component. So you have to click the image icon and then click Browse Server. And then here you'd be able to click to upload. This editor is a bit better because you can do more than one image at a time, but it requires more steps to get your image into the site. So that's it for the legacy editor. The other way to edit things is using the portal management model-driven app. When you access, you have on the left side, you have a list of entities or data types that you can access to. We're gonna explore the web page for a little while. So going back to my maker.powerapps.com, I click on portal management, and I have access to my page. So I'm going to scroll down to web pages. Okay, and here I can see my page, sample content. I click in there. I have some properties or some fields for my page. All right. And in here, I have a list of localized content. Now, I only have English in my example, so therefore, that's why I only have one record. If you had more languages, you'd see them here. You'd be able to add it. So I can click to edit content and scroll down, and I get to see my content here. Of course, it's not going to show the image because of relative path issues, but you can, if you'd like, you can navigate to the source and still make changes to it from here. Now, note that when I make changes using the backend, my changes don't automatically propagate directly to the website. The reason being is because portals use a caching mechanism so that when you surface a page, it doesn't travel all the way to CDS to fetch data every time a user is rendering a page. So it uses the caching system. And the way it works is when you make changes, CDS will send a notification to portals, but it's not immediate. Now, if you are doing development, if you are using a lot of the backend to make changes to, what you need to do is, if you want to see those changes in the portal, what you need to do is, when you log in as a portal admin user, you can navigate to the portal's address _services /about. And in here, you'll be able to clear the cache, which will in turn reload all of these content-based records, the web page content, the files that you may upload from the backend. You can rebuild a search index. If you're playing with the customer service portal, it uses knowledge base articles as part of the library of knowledge made available to the user. If you create a knowledge base article and you want it to surface to the portal, you can click to rebuild the search index, and you can clear the config. The config is more related to site settings and other things. So that's how you pretty much clear and refresh your portal if you're using some of the backend programming. All right. Any questions so far, or should we move on? Moving on.
We can move on.
All right. So next in line here, we have portal settings. Portal settings is where you do the administration of your site. You create a portal. You want your portal to have a custom domain, or you want your portal to use one of your own SSL certificates. You want to change the subdomain name of your portal, so on and so forth. You want to restart or reset your portal. this is how you would do it. You want to enable one of the things that people do is they enable integration with SharePoint or integration with Power BI, so on and so forth. This is the panel that you use to access the settings area. Okay, and the way you access it is you go back to make.powerapps.com, you click the three dots, and then you have the settings area. When you click that, all this already changed. That's good. You used to have two options here. One to see the portal settings area and another one to see site settings. So that's how you access the app settings, the portal app settings, and you're gonna land on a page that's similar to it. All right. I'm gonna hurry up here because I only have about 10 minutes. So we're gonna do a sample on the branding. How can I get my own branding into portals? All right. So back to Studio, which to me is the easiest way to do this. I'll go back to the home page. All right. And from here, I can click on the theme, the themes icon, and I can say, go ahead and upload a custom CSS. I can either do that, or if I already have a Bootstrap main file that I use, I can click on the Bootstrap file and do that. You notice, I don't know if you saw, you got a chance to see, oh man, I hate when it does that. Sorry about that. I don't know if you noticed that it's already letting me know that it's dangerous to to change it the Bootstrap min file directly. But you could still do that. If you click here, you can upload your own. One other thing that people do is you can create a superset of your Bootstrap file and load it by clicking the cut file. And what it does is Portals will place your CSS file in order so that it loads their own Bootstrap CSS file first, then it will load the theme.css file after, and then it will load yours. So your CSS file will take precedence, if you will, over the other ones. It will override the other CSS files. So that's what I usually do. I don't override the existing because there may be changes in the future that they do that are reliant on the styles that they've used on their basic CSS. So I go ahead and create my own. So I've created this one called Power Platform CSS. And what it does is it will change the bar and it will change the menu colors for my site. So not very many entries here, just enough to do what I need. So I'm going to save this file. It's now saved. I can go back, clear the cache on my site. Oh, come on. Am I not logged on anymore? And as you can see, I've changed the menu bar of my website. Okay, it's now purple. Not looking great, but maybe you have a better CSS file than I do with more settings on it. Then I can go ahead, go back to Studio, open my page, and I'm gonna make some additional changes to my page. First thing I will do is I'm gonna change this logo. I wanna use something else. I'm gonna use the Power logo. So that's my logo there. Again, pretty big. I can adjust the side using the front face editor. It's now saved. Next, I'm gonna change this hero image. I'm gonna upload my own. So now that's done, and it should have change my page here. It did. So my page looks different already. Michael, you made a comment around making it more modern, making it more appealing. So in terms of visual appeal, whatever you can do with Bootstrap, you can do it here. If you have a component in Bootstrap that a designer has built that has lots of HTML5 animation and it's displayed nicely on the portal, if it's Bootstrap based, you can do it here. All right. So you saw in a few seconds, I rebranded at least the top part of my portal. All right. So moving on to the part that to me it's most interesting is surfacing CDS assets and other components. Portal works with components called entity lists, entity forms, and it's the last three options here are more config based. So the first two are essentially ways or plumbing, if you will, to be able to show what you have already composed in the CDS customization area into the portal. So you can compose in CDS and expose in PowerApps Portal. So entity list is a direct link, if you will, to a view on a CDS entity. Okay. If you create a view, you can expose it here in PowerApps Portal. Entity forms, following the same train of thought, are the CDS forms that you created for your entities. It's a way to expose CDS forms to your entity. So I'm gonna really go quickly on this one. Going back to the make website, I have a solution file called portal extensions. And in this solution, I have the account entity, and in here, I have a form, a view, sorry, that I created. The view has only 3 fields, all right? So I'm gonna get another make.powerapp.com page open here just to get things done faster. So from there, I go to entity lists, then I can click new. I can call it my sample list, select account, give it the name of the portal that I will use this on. And then I'm going to select the view that I want to play with. So I'll use the active accounts view. So my entity list is done. Now I can go back to Studio and go again to that page, my customization page, which is where, Victor? Sample page. Anyhow, let's go with another one. So the page is going to be called entity or CDS components. It's saving my page. Components. I can click on components and say I want to add a list to my page. Let me move it to the inside of this guy so that it displays nicely. Okay, I want to add a list. My list, or my account list, will be the title. Then I can now select. If I wanted to create new, the thing that I did in the backend, I could have done here. I prefer to do it in the backend because then on the demos, I can explain how it works. I'm going to use an existing one. account list. Then it's there. It's saved. I hate it that I don't have the power to ensure that it's saved, really saved, but it's saved. It's already showing information. I can then navigate to my page and I should see that list there. All right, it's not showing. Okay, the data is there now. So fairly easy to expose dynamics data or functionality. And this grid is fully functional in terms of sorting and whatnot. So next what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to CDS and we're gonna say, I want to create a new form. I go to entity form, I'll hit new, call it account create, account, select a form. I'm gonna use maybe the summary view. The mode is gonna be insert because I want to add records to my form. So save, and I'll make sure that I am logged on this time. Okay, so my form is created. Then I go back to the list, and what I will do is I'm gonna tell my list that for creating a record, I'm gonna tell my list that in order to create a record, I'm gonna use the entity form I just created. So save that. Again, because I'm doing that from the back end, I may need to update, clear the cache here. So it's there. Reload. Now my create button is available. And my form is spinning here. It doesn't usually take that long. It's probably because it's the first load. So we'll give it some time to load. And my form is here. Not a beautiful form, probably because there is a timeline component right here in the middle. But if you change the design of your form, the fields, how they should be displayed, or should be placed on a form, then you'd be able to make it a better presentation. But you get the idea. So whatever you build in CDS, you can expose here through portals. There are some catches on how this works. Basically, you do have to do some plumbing before you get to this position where you add permissions on your site. So you can say, for a user that's logged on, I want to give the rights to see all accounts in my CDS, or maybe only the accounts that they are related to. So you can do that using entity permissions, okay? And before we head out to the presentation, let me talk about site settings. So site settings, as I mentioned, is where you define a lot of the settings for Portal. One example here is the Azure AD login enabled. If you want to disable it, you just say false. There are some other entries here. Let me see if they still doing. Yeah, Facebook, App ID and secret. If you want to enable Facebook login on your site. There are many site settings, but this is where you would start if you're inspecting why some of the features of your site are not behaving correctly in terms of authentication, in terms of the number of rows that's displayed on a grid, so on and so forth. Back to the presentation. All right, so next here are the ProDev aspects of PowerApps Portals. Um, PowerApps, in order to extend a portal, you can use liquid programming. I have a YouTube presentation about an hour long only on liquid, how to get started, how the language works, how to use if statements and for loops, and how to query dynamics or CDS, sorry, how to query CDS using instructions in the portal, so on and so forth. So I won't talk too much about this, but I strongly advise you to look at the videos. There are links to other videos there as well. Portal has a web API that's currently on general preview, and it's a fairly simple API to use. But the idea is, if you can inject any JavaScript framework into portals like React or React or the React tool sets or framework, you can then use a web API that's fairly standard to push data into CDS. So I'm working on a demo for an event in about 2 weeks that will show a lot of the web API interaction using other frameworks and all within portals. Maybe you can catch that there. But there is links here to the web API. Portal supports native JavaScript like any other web app. It has jQuery already embedded. You don't have to re-add or use a CDN reference. It does call the version, but it's available in Microsoft's documentation. When you use jQuery, if you are exposing an entity form, you can access the fields on the entity form just like you would access any other input using jQuery. So fairly simple to use. There is a guy called Ang Kang. I hope I pronounced your name right, Ang, and forgive me if I did not. That has built an extension of what we are familiar with, the XRM page library automation. You know how you do set visible, set enabled, so set value in the CDS backend. He built a version of a framework, if you will, called XRM Portal.js that allows you to do the same type of program you do for Dynamics JavaScripting. You can do that in portals. It's really cool. So I do use that quite often. And then you can CDN your JavaScript frameworks onto Portal. So I have done a sample on using React within portals. Hopefully we'll have time to show. Um, then in terms of DevOps, moving portals between environments, a lot of folks that I know, they use Azure Pipeline tasks to move the schema change that you may do to enable your portal functionality or the customizations that you're doing. Just simple pipeline for schema. And then a friend of mine, Arpit Shirvastava, he has done a whole talk on how to move PowerApps Portals content from one environment to the other. All right, so I strongly advise you also look into that. If your portal is really heavyweight, your portal project's heavyweight, and you're gonna have to do quite a bit of DevOps for portals. If you're using a simpler setup, you can use the XRM toolbox. The tool is called Portal Records Mover. And what it does, it looks at portals in one environment, compiles an XML file that you can then put it on source control if you want to keep a record of changes. Or you can, from that tool, you can export those changes from one environment straight to another, right? There is also a Portal Records Mover console app that you can use for that. So if you are into PowerShell scripting, you can use the console app to build your XML files and then use the XML files to push it to another environment and bundle that all into a PowerShell. Also, you can use the Microsoft configuration migration tool to move records from one environment to another. and that's also supported by PowerShell. Okay, so those are the ways that you can manage DevOps for a Portals project. Um, Additionally, though, if you are getting started and if you're looking for more, I don't know, inspiration into getting your PowerApps Portal project moving, these are the folks that I usually look at for new content on portals. Myself included. There's Nick Dolman, Colin Vermander, Jim Novak, Nichols Hyduke, Art Pitt, Oliver. I think Oliver lives closer to you guys in Ireland. Ritika also does quite a bit of JavaScript examples. Click on one grid and then updates the other grid. Ong and Alexander does quite fun stuff as well. In the end, though, I'm strongly believe in sharing knowledge. If you learn anything from this session, go ahead and share. I don't get upset when people take stuff from my presentation, just share to the community. I don't care as long as you share it. You are empowering the community. We are good. All right. So as our iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens another. If you share this content, make sure you are doing with the intent to help the community, not only to promote yourself. If we do that, that's good with me. And finally, thank you very much for sitting for 1 hour and listening to me. If you scan this QR code or access the URL that's written there, you'll be able to download this slide deck as well as all the assets that I've used in this presentation. Um, Michael and Thomas, I'm so sorry, I'm 2 minutes over time. Thank you so much for the opportunity.